The following is a presentation on the repeal of Common Core within the state of Alabama. Our goal is to present to you just the facts. Within this presentation, we will prove that the Common Core standards have many flaws, that the standards were not written by the states, that the rescinding of the Memorandum of Agreement by the Alabama State Department of Education was a deception, that the U.S. Department of Education and the feds do control the standards and the SLDS databases, that the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, as revised January 2012, no longer protects the students' data, and that the Alabama standards which existed before Common Core were working fine. The following information is taken from actual governmental documents pertaining directly or indirectly to Common Core. Below are some facts showing that the standards are federally controlled. David Axelrod stated it was an initiative of the Obama administration. Arnie Duncan stated it was our set of standards. Duncan went on to tell California that they must implement Common Core or else lose funds to the state. The grants, which have been received by the states, require the adoption of the Common Core standards and the SLDS databases, and the feds changed FERPA, allowing student data to be shared with virtually whomever the U.S. Department of Education decides. Now hear for yourself David Axelrod followed by Arnie Duncan in their statements about Common Core standards.
Afternoon. I want to welcome you on behalf of the Institute of Politics. The Institute of Politics began in January of this year, and our goal is to bring forums like this to the campus, practitioners to the campus, and engage in the politics and the public policy. All of us have concerns about the performance generally of our kids and workers relative to some of our competitors around the world. We have concerns about inequality of opportunity between school districts around the country. These are fundamental problems that we have to solve. And so today we're having a discussion, as you know, about the Common Core standards, which was an initiative of the Obama administration. We're happy to welcome Secretary Arnie Duncan home to Chicago. I first met Arnie on this campus when I was a student here, and he was a young kid playing basketball at Bartlett Gym.
So we're going to jump right in, and with this as a framing, the Common Core, I think, is arguably the most ambitious effort to improve the quality of teaching and learning in the United States in a generation. For those of the audience here who don't know what the Common Core state standards are, can you give us a quick overview?
So the Common Core state standards are a set of standards that teachers, school chief officers, governors, starting in about 2007, started to work together with the basic goal being to raise the bar. That in far too many states, and frankly, I think not insignificantly because of No Child Left Behind, you had about 20 states actually dummy down standards to make politicians look good. So we were telling kids they were on track to be successful. We were actually lying to them, lying to their families. For me, it's one of the most insidious things that happen in education. And there were a set of political leaders, education leaders, who said we need to do something better. And the Common Core state standards, they were voluntarily adopted by 46 states. Folks thought that would never happen. Are a set of standards that hope to guarantee that if you know this body of knowledge when you graduate from high school, you are truly college and career ready. And we know not only do we have devastating dropout rates here in Chicago and across the country, we lose 1 million kids from our schools to our streets each year, but far too many who actually
Why repeal Common Core? Because they have many flaws.
This is an excerpt from the Common Core exemplar list of reading for 11th graders. At the bottom you can see it recommends Toni Morrison's book, The Bluest Eye. Below are just a few quotes from The Bluest Eye. The Bluest Eye is a story about a black father committing rape and incest with his 8-year-old daughter until she becomes pregnant at age 12. The author has even been quoted as saying she wants the reader to feel as though they are co-conspirators with the rapist. This is unconscionable. We will not read out the information below. You can read it yourself and see the filth and garbage that is contained within it. Do you want your 11th grader reading such garbage? Another recommended book for 11th graders for Common Core reading is Dreaming in Cuban.
One portion of this book describes a sex scene in a bathroom with a man and a woman that is not married. There are explicit details, and later on it tells about the woman tying the man up because he likes it that way. Do you want your 11th grader reading Dreaming in Cuban or The Bluest Eye? I would not. A few other flaws with Common Core. There are over 7 books on the recommended Common Core test exemplars list that are also found on the American Libraries Association list of the top most challenged or banned books for the 20th century. Common Core standards were not internationally benchmarked. 2 of the members on the validation initiative who voted against the standards stated that they contained empty skill sets. The average reading level was around grade 7. That math standards would put students back 2 years behind achieving countries. Below is a lesson taken from the Pearson textbook for 5th graders teaching false statements about the government. Item number 4, talking about the presidency. He makes sure the country's laws are fair. No, that is the job of the judicial system. Item number 5, government officials' commands must be obeyed by all. The laws of the land are to be obeyed by all, not government officials. Item number 6, an individual's wants are less important than the nation's well-being. This would destroy the Bill of Rights.
Investigations has been adopted by the state of Alabama for teaching math. Investigations on their website states that their curriculum is totally compliant with Common Core standards. Now let's view a 5th grader telling how she was taught math investigations.
Great. So what I want you to do is, can you solve that problem showing me the way that you learned how to solve it in school?
Okay.
And talk to me while you're solving it.
So we learned that a big square like this is 100. So we could make that 100 into a cube, which would make 1,000. So I'm going to do that. Oh, no, I'm not. So let's just say that's 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And now we still have to do 500. Could make that into 5. Have 60, which are just lines of 10. 1. For her birthday, she got 1,000 The dots represent 1.
Okay.
So now we have to add all of these together. So you could make 1,000. All of these together is 400. Now you need 600 more. So we have 1,000 plus, or let's just say 3,000 because we have 3 cubes. 3,000 plus 100, 200, 300, 400. So now we can erase all these sheets and hundreds and tens and singles. So we can just add, and that gives us a total of 3,763.
Okay. Now that problem you just solved took about 8 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's what we're doing in school. But at home, I'm taught how to stack, and we're not allowed to do stacking in school. That's why we have to figure it out that way.
Okay.
So I'm going to stack these numbers, which is way easy.
What are you thinking? You're looking at your problems.
I got 2 different answers.
You got 2 different answers. What do you think happened?
Maybe I counted wrong.
Looks like you did the stacking correctly, and that took you about a minute.
So I think I did something messed up on this sheet.
What do you think happened?
Well, since that way was more confusing and it was like things were like all over the place, like it was hard to add them together because we had a lot of sheets and a lot of strips all on the board.
Yeah.
It was kind of harder to add them together. You need to be more organized.
More organized.
And this way is way more organized. I could just look at this information and wasn't as confusing.
One might suggest we'll just have our state remove those standards. No, the states are only allowed to add 15% to the standards. They are not allowed to remove anything or delay its implementation. California decided through legislation to postpone their standards testing because they weren't prepared for it. A letter from Arnie Duncan, the U.S. Department of Education, stated that if they decided to do so, it could withhold funds from the state. States can only add up to 15% additional standards. They cannot subtract. The MacReal report below shows you that they must adopt the standards 100% verbatim, and they can only add 15%. As you can see with the confusion in the chart below of how Common Core is connected with other entities, such as the grants in the SLDS databases and others. Almost looks like Obamacare. Why repeal Common Core? Because they were not written by the states. The NGA and the CCSSO contracted with Student Achievement Partners to write the standards. Who were Student Achievement Partners? It was founded by David Coleman and Susan Pimentel and Jason Zimba. Board of Directors were William McCollum and
Phil Darrow, each of them donated to the Obama campaign. If the states had any input or contribution to these standards, why will it not be made public? The reason is that they did not contribute to the standards. As we just stated, who wrote the Common Core standards? If not the states, David Coleman conceived the idea, presented it to the NGA and the CCSSO, who hands it off to Achieve, and they create an advisory group of the Common Core standards and contract student achievement partners to write the standards, of which 5 of these 6 board members were lead writers, not the states. 6 of the 7 members were major contributors to the Obama campaign. And student achievement partners received $6.5 million from Bill Gates, $18 million from the GE Foundation. Of these 2 groups who donated to the Obama campaign in 2008 of $852,000 by Microsoft and $530,000 by the GE Foundation. Now let's hear from David Coleman himself, architect and writer of the Common Core standards. And by the way, he was born into a far-left socialist Marxist family.
One of them is the Common Core standards. And most people, when trying to understand how that could have happened, right? In other words, how could it be that in a country locked against itself that something broke in this way? When I was involved in convincing governors and others around this country to adopt these standards, it was not Obama likes them. Do you think that would have gone well with the Republican crowd? Shouldn't you instead be meeting with the Council of Chief State School Officers? Those of you who say that probably have not attended as many of those meetings as I have. And they might wonder whether we had a legion of talented lobbyists or friends in the right places. Tom, who knows me well, knows how pathetic the beginnings of the Common Core standard movement were. Think of a napkin. Think of a few people in a room with an idea.
Deception? What deception? The rescinding of the Memorandum of Agreement by the Alabama Department of Education was the deception. In February of 2013, the legal counsel for the Alabama Department of Education sent a letter to Dr. Bice stating that the rescinding of the MOA would have none effect on their commitment to Common Core. Yet in November 2013, Dr. Bice proceeded to pass a resolution to rescind the MOA, knowing that it had no effect. The media and the public took this rescinding as Alabama's opting out of Common Core. It was not, and it did not. This was the deception. One of the documents that needs to be rescinded that required Alabama to proceed with Common Core is the resolution signed in November 2010. As mentioned before, the U.S. Department of Education and the Fed do control the standards and the SLDS databases. David Axelrod stated this was an initiative of the Obama administration. Arnie Duncan stated the Common Core standards were our set of standards. The feds control the standards through the language within the grants to the states. The feds force the states to capture data on students through SLDS databases, and the feds change FERPA so that the student data is no longer protected from being distributed to authorized representatives as defined by the Secretary of Education. The Federal Department of Education, in a national policy, stated that in the 21st century that non-cognitive factors are included throughout the Common Core standards. This is noted in a paper sponsored by the Department of Education called GRIT. Non-cognitive means statements cannot be true or false. You're not to teach absolutes or morality, etc. Therefore, non-cognitive philosophy and factors promoted within the standards would teach that the Ten Commandments are neither true nor false. They are absolutes, and therefore they should not be taught. 2 plus 2 does not necessarily equal 4 in non-cognitive philosophy. It's not the answer, but how you derive at the answer. Is this what you want to teach your children? The Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which was revised January 2012, no longer protects students' data. FERPA was revised in January 2012 by the feds to allow a multitude of authorized representatives to access student data without prior written consent. It requires states to develop and expand an SLDS database containing P2, or personally identifiable information. P2 includes over 400 data points, which one is biometric data. According to the federal standards, biometric data includes fingerprints, retina, and iris images, along with other information. P2 data is to be shared with the U.S. Department of Education, and the U.S. DOE can share with any other U.S. department or agency. The Alabama standards before Common Core were working great. According to an advanced placement report dated September 2013, Alabama students ranked number 1 in the nation in percent increases and number 2 in the nation on minority percent increases, all before Common Core. It was praised by the Business Council of Alabama, Governor Bentley, and Dr. Bice. Why would we want to change a model that has worked so well these past 5 years? A business with profit increases of 114% over a 5-year period would not change its business model, or else it would risk losing its shareholders. We should repeal Common Core and go back to what is a proven working set of standards, the Alabama Courses of Study Standards.